Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head down to Austria once again and we're going to have a look at yet another one of my Hans beers. So first and foremost, a massive shout out and thank you to Hans Feigl, my Austrian beer mule living in Vienna. It's thanks to him that you guys are getting to enjoy a steady stream of Austrian beers on the channel at the moment. And you might have seen that recently he sent me a box filled with lots of microbrewed Vienna lagers, which we're working our way through at the moment, and there are a couple of other things in that box as well, a Märzen, a Scotch ale, and a Helles as well that we'll be working our way through. But I've really enjoyed the ones that I've had so far. It's great to be able to explore the Vienna lager style a little bit more because it's not one that you come across all that often. So again, Hans, a huge thank you to you for making this review possible, and I hope that you guys watching down in Austria as well are enjoying these reviews too. But yeah, for this review then, we are going to go to another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. These guys are relatively new to the scene from what I understand, but their beers are supposed to be very, very nice. So yeah, we're sticking to Vienna for this one, as we have been so far, and we're going to have a look this time at my first beer from Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk. So this beer is their Vienna lager. It comes in at 5.4% ABV, and I think you know what style this one is. So yeah, very, very curious to see how this one turns out. My very first encounter with this beer, as I mentioned, and hopefully it's as good as the ones we've had from the other breweries so far as well. So yeah, let's crack on with this then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for the Austrian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regularly at the moment while we work our way through the Hans beers. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk, and I do apologise for any bad German pronunciations in this video. But yeah, so Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk are based in the Leopoldau district in the north of Vienna, and the company was founded back in 2019. So the two men behind this brewery are Bernard and Reini, or Reinhard to give him his full name, and both of these guys have quite extensive backgrounds in beer. They're both certified sommeliers, and Reinhard has a long history as a home brewer, whereas Bernhard is a trained brewing and beverage technician as well. So yeah, quite a pedigree behind them. But these guys operate as a contractor gypsy brewery. They don't have their own facility, and they've brewed in various breweries, including Braukirche 35, Brauschneider, Marchfelder, Storchenbräu, Privatbrauerei Gerald Schwarz, to name but a few. But as of July 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 10 different beers, and so far they seem to be a variety of different styles. There's a few interesting dark beers in there as well, but of course the Vienna lager was the one that I was most interested in, and that's the one that Hans picked out for me. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about these guys. They're relatively new on the scene, as I say, so there's not too much history to report as of yet, but maybe when we revisit these guys in the future, we will have a little bit more to talk about in the history section. But yeah, short and sweet this time, that's it. But yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all of the different beers that these guys have been doing. So yeah, let's crack on then and have a taste of this one and see how we go. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty nice. You know, I think it's quite a nice modern take on some of the old kind of Central European classic labels. I think you can see the Vienna skyline in there, which I think is a pretty nice touch, and you can see the malt, the kind of barley plant in there as well. But yeah, you can also see that they've got their own bottle caps at the moment, which I think is very nice. I do like it when breweries have their own bottle caps, mainly because it means that I can add more to my collection. But as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a 5.4% Vienna lager beer, this one, so I think it should be quite nice. It also says it has a little bit of wheat in it as well, so yeah, that's an interesting one. But as we've said in the other Vienna lager videos, I've been learning from these ones that you can get them to be a little bit more grainy, they can sometimes be a little bit more biscuity, and of course they can be a little bit more oily as well. So it's really nice to have a few different examples of Vienna lagers to try in fairly quick succession and get a proper idea of the scope of this style, because it's not a style that you come across all that often, as I mentioned. But a lager beer, by definition, is bottom fermenting yeast or cold temperature fermentation. In other words, it ferments between 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. There's lots of different types of lagers. You've got your Helles, your Dunkel, your Schwarzbiers, of course, the blondes, the kind of mahogany coloured ones, and the dark lagers. The Czechs, of course, have their analogues as well. The main difference between the Czech and German lagers for me would be that the German ones tend to be quite crisp, whereas the Czech ones tend to be a little bit more kind of bready and yeasty. You've got the Märzen from Germany as well. So if we compare the German ones to the Czechs, so the blonde Helles is the same as the Czech Svetli. The German Märzen is roughly equivalent to the Czech Letzak, the kind of sort of coppery coloured one. Then you've also got the Cherny, which is the mahogany coloured one. That's equivalent to the German Dunkel. Then you've got the Tamavi, which is equivalent to the German Schwarzbier. Doppelbox, of course, are lager beers, as well as the single box and the Mai box and the Heller box and all of these kind of things. And then of course you've got the Vienna lagers as well, which are I guess you could probably compare these to the Märzens and the Letzaks, but I think the Vienna lagers tend to be a little bit more sort of oily than the other ones. The Märzens tend to be a little bit more kind of crisp and biscuity, and the Czech ones tend to be a little bit more kind of bready, of course, the Letzaks. But yeah, that gives you a rough idea of where we are in the lager spectrum with these. But yeah, 330ml bottle, this one. Vienna lager, it should hopefully be as nice as the other ones we've had before, but I do like the label art on that, and the bottle cap is a nice mix between kind of classic Central European and kind of more modern craft, if you like. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Curious to see what this one has in store for us. Oh, this is exploding a little bit. There we go. Did not expect that from a lager. It's usually the Belgian beers that are going to do that to you. Okay, there we go. Well, we live and learn. Okay, I'll need to wipe up my desk when we finish up then. First time that's happened to me with a lager beer, but of course we did manage to deal with that fairly quickly. So yeah, there's not even that's weird. There's not even any sediment really at the bottom of that then. So yeah, there we go. There we go. Right, we'll wipe the desk afterwards, and I'll need to wash my hand, of course, as well. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very sticky. But yeah, there we go. An exploding. Well, not so much exploding. I've had beers explode on me worse than that. But yeah, a very eager, should we say, Vienna lager, this one. Yep. So anyway, now that we've got it out of the glass, you can see that the head has pretty much disappeared, but you could see from the foam, it was a nice kind of fawny, very slightly beige colour there. I don't know how many fingers we count an explosion as, but that's it. But yeah, you can see there's just a nice little foamy ring around the edge of the glass there, but pretty much nothing on the top of the beer. But yeah, I guess that could happen. It's just a bit strange, because when I checked the bottle earlier, as I say, there was no sediment on the bottom of it. I don't know, maybe just the pressure built up or something like that, who knows. But yeah, anyway, the head has completely disappeared on this one. It was, as I say, a kind of light beigey colour. There's just a few little islands and wisps on the top of the bottle there, but we are the top of the liquid. We haven't lost too much out of that, just a few mils, I think, so no biggie. But yeah, in terms of the colour of this one then, you can see it's a lovely, very rich amber colour, and this is what you would expect of the Vienna lagers. They're usually between copper and amber, and remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This determines the magnitude of the colour. 2, the length of your wort boil. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. And any adjuncts or barrel aging, of course, will play a role as well. But in the Vienna lagers, those 2 factors are not at play. It's all about the type of malts that you use and the length of your wort boil. I think a Vienna lager will undergo a wort boil of 60 to 90 minutes, something like that. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass here, and then a steady stream of a few smaller ones going up towards the bottom of the surface there. But as you saw, this beer was a little bit excited when we opened it up. But yeah, a little bit of a natural haze to this beer as well, which you'll often get from these Central European lagers. So yeah, certainly looks the part of a Vienna lager. Nothing overly surprising about the appearance of this one. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. Very curious about this beer, of course. yeah, this one actually smells, you know, this one's interesting because, you know, in the last one that we had, it was the graininess that stood out to me, actually, the graininess and the breadiness that stood out to me in that one. This one actually comes across as quite stereotypical as to what I would expect. It's very smooth, it's very clean, it's got a bit of bread, it's got a little bit of kind of brown sugary note to it. This is kind of everything that you would want, and the noble hops as well. So yeah, this, just first impression of this one, this is kind of like what my stereotype of a Vienna lager would have been before I started trying all these ones from the little Viennese microbreweries. So yeah, this one I think is going to be interesting in that sense. But yeah, so yeah, the first thing you'll notice with this beer is it smells just very, this one comes across as very, very clean in a sense, but it's got everything you would expect in terms of aroma. But I like this one. I think this is going to be a sessioner. The only complaint I've had about these Vienna lagers so far is that they're 330ml bottles, but when it's very small volume breweries that are doing these things, you can understand. I always think that the lagers should be sold either in 440 cans or half litres, but yeah, that's just me. I'm not going to moan about that because these guys are, you know, microbreweries, and if you want more of their beer, obviously that's a good thing. But yeah, so let's break down the aroma of this beer for you a little bit more succinctly then. So the backbone of this beer is undoubtedly you know, a very smooth kind of sort of mix of white and brown bread in here, sort of wholemeal kind of bread. So that forms the backbone of the aroma here. You do get a little bit more of a slightly grainy bread crust out of this one, and you've got a lovely sort of mix of honey and caramel in this beer, and a lot of biscuit, I would say, as well. But yeah, it's like you've got a bit more of a kind of concentrated caramel right in the middle of the nose. You can smell there's some more honeyish elements to it, and you've also got that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. But like I say, the malt base in this beer is very stereotypical as with regards to what I would expect of a Vienna lager before I had started filming this little mini series for you. So yeah, this one's got exactly what I would want. Lovely kind of biscuity notes in there, a smoother kind of, a little bit of a kind of honey note as well, and then a wee bit of a straight up sort of a caramel with some lovely bready elements underneath. The Vienna malts I really enjoy for that mix of breadiness and brown sugar. They just hit the spot for me. Just think it's a shame that this style is not more widely appreciated, although in fairness, in the craft beer world, we are seeing more and more breweries having a go at lagers, so I hope that quite a few have a go at the Vienna lagers as well. But yeah, this one is this is lovely in terms of its malty side of things, so thumbs up to Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk for this. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, you do get a little bit of earthiness out of this one. It's quite a smooth earthiness though. Like I've said in other videos, I'm not sure whether these breweries will use Austrian hops, which do exist. I don't know too much about them, of course, or whether they're going to use Czech hops like the Sats, the Žatec, or the German Hallertau Tettnangers, or even the Slovenian Styrian Goldings or whatever. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to use in this one, but it certainly gives you the same sort of noble characteristics that you're going to get from any of those varieties that I've just mentioned. But you get a little bit of a smooth earthiness on the green component there. You get a little touch of a herbal quality as well. But for me, the green component in this one has a nice little bit of kind of floral brightness, and you also get just a little touch of a kind of grassy, zesty type quality out of this beer as well, but the zestiness isn't too much. So yeah, the green component for me is lovely and smooth, and if I was guessing, I would think maybe a bit of Slovenian hop in this one, but in fairness, at the same time, it's got a little bit of the brightness that you'll get from the Hallertaus and the Tettnangers on the grassy side of things. So not 100% sure. Like we say, it could be an Austrian hop that I've never heard of before. So yeah, that's another thing I need to educate myself in, is Austrian hops. So if anyone's got any good links to websites for that, incidentally, put those in the comments section below. That would be awesome to see. But yeah, and maybe make a separate comment saying that you've shared that with me, or send it to me through Instagram, whatever. That's probably better through Instagram, actually. But yeah, the green component of this beer is lovely and smooth. But fruity side of things, it is kind of what you'd expect. There's a little hint of red fruit in this one, you know, like a very slight sort of figgy kind of thing. You expect this from a Vienna lager normally, but there's a little bit of a kind of sultana type quality to this one. You've got those kind of peary and appley esters to the beer as well. So a nice oily peary kind of thing. Good little bit of sultana, you know, dried white green grapes, then just a little hint of a sort of red fruity character to this one. A little bit of a kind of figgy quality or something like that. But yeah, these are all things that you would expect of a Vienna lager. And like I say, this is the most stereotypical of the ones that I've kind of come across in this little Viennese series that we're doing at the moment here on the channel. But it smells great, so thumbs up to Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk for this one. I think it's about time that we try this beer then. So yeah, this one is the Vienna lager, 5.4% ABV from Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk, a gypsy brewery based in the northern part of Vienna, down in Austria. Thank you again to Hans for making this review possible. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers and Prost. Oh yeah, that is very nice. First impression of it is it's actually got a little bit of a more kind of, it's almost like, it feels like it's almost like got a little bit of a dusty, kind of, you know, dusty, fresh bready sort of thing in the backbone of this one. So this one has a wee bit of that kind of grainy, dusty sort of thing that I was talking about in the other ones as well, but it doesn't show that in the aroma. That's interesting. But I'm going to say straight away, this is another very, very solid one. I really love this style. Like I say, I wish it was more widely appreciated. But again, this brewery know what they're doing, and when you consider the background that that Bernard and Reinhard have, then it's not surprising, to be honest with you. These Viennese lagers have all been really damn nice actually. But yeah, this one does come across a wee bit differently from what you would expect from the aroma. You get the feeling that this one is going to be, you know, very, very smooth and things like that, but it does have a wee bit of a kind of grainy sort of dryness underneath it. But I like how that goes together for sure. So thumbs up to Leopoldauer for this one. So how do we break this one down then? Straight away across the middle of your palate, you can feel that nice smooth bready quality just blanket in the middle of your palate. So like I say, it does have a wee bit of an almost kind of dusty thing like that. It's like, you know, what it makes me think of, you know, when you get one of these hedgehog rolls. I don't know what we call them, but if you go to the breweries, the bakeries rather, not the breweries, the bakeries in you know, Czech, Germany, Austria as well, you'll get these lovely fresh breads, but you've got a little bit, you know, it's like when you bite into the bread crust and it's just got a little bit of flour left on it. That's what the backbone of this beer really reminds me of a little bit. But yeah, like I say, you can feel that slightly drier bread crusty quality that blankets the middle third of your palate and the back third of your palate. That is the backbone of the beer. If you go into that middle third of your palate, then this is where the biggest part of the complexity of the beer is. So in the front half of that middle third of your palate, you'll get a very slightly woody undertone to the beer, maybe even a tiny, tiny little hint of a slight nuttiness in there, but that's very minimal. Quite a bit of woodiness for me though in this one. But sitting on top of that kind of bread crusty layer, if you like, you can feel a sort of smoother and almost slightly sweeter kind of wholemeal sort of brown bread in there. So yeah, you really get that out of this beer, and that's, you know, this is something that you expect. As I say, this is the Viennese malts, this is what they're going to give you, but on top of the bread, this is where you start to get the kind of sweetness out of the beer too. And I would say that in this beer, as you go further into it, it feels like the bread gets a little bit more fluffy in a sense. It just feels that the bread sort of grows a little bit almost on the palate, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, there's quite a wee bit of that to this one as well, which I can certainly appreciate. So yeah, the way this beer goes about its business, I think, is very nice. I like that about it for sure. So yeah, on top of that, on top of those kind of brown bready notes there, and as I say, they get taller the further you go into the aftertaste, but in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel a little bit of that kind of concentrated kind of caramelly note, and that of course is the boozy part of the beer. So you can feel that right in the dead centre of your palate, but as you move further out from the kind of the middle of that middle third of your palate, the dead centre of your tongue essentially, you can feel that the beer gets a little bit honey-like, and then as you reach the extremities of that middle third of your palate, you're getting more and more of that kind of McVitie's digestive, biscuity kind of thing coming out of this beer. And these are all things, as I say, that you would expect of this style. So again, I think it's fair to describe this beer as one It's not going to give you anything surprising for the style, but it's just really well crafted, and you can't ask for much more than that. I mean, when you drink enough of any style, that's what you can say. You just want these beers to be well done, and this one is. So I like it. Leopoldauer have got a solid Vienna lager here. I'll need to try some of their other lagers and see what they're all about as well. But yeah, I like this one for sure. But yeah, it does go together really nicely. When you go further into the aftertaste with this beer, what you will notice as well is that the kind of, especially towards the back of the palate, you'll feel that the beer dries out a little bit and you start to get more of the bread crusty and grainy elements of the bread crust coming out of the beer, and I can really appreciate that about this one actually. This one has a really nice transition of flavour. So yeah, it's drier in the back third of your palate, more kind of you know, a little bit thicker and smoother but still sweeter in the middle of your palate, and then you've got the fruity elements on the front third. But we'll go through the beer systematically as we always do. So we've covered the middle third of your palate, I think, quite well in this one. So let's go on to the back third of the palate. So the border region at these two areas, again, you get a little bit of that bready build up in there. It gets a little bit sweet almost, but you've still got some of those more grainy bread crusty notes there. Builds up and thickens up. But then in the back third of your palate, as I say, you've got that you know, that bread crusty backbone there, and you can feel it's getting a little bit drier the further that you go into the you know, the further back on the palate that you go. On top of that, you get a really smooth bready element to it, and you can feel again that this gets a wee bit more grainy the further back onto the into the back third of your palate you go. Then on top of both of these things, you can feel the more airy, sort of yeasty part of the beer. So when you start at the back of the palate, the flavour's just a little bit taller, and it condenses down as you go further forward. Then into the middle third of your palate, it is just a wee bit more kind of squashed together in a sense. But like I say, back third of your palate, distinctly drier and slightly more grainy in a sense than the middle third of your palate, where you're getting the sweetness and stuff like that. So yeah, I like how that goes together in this one. The malty and yeasty side of this beer is really, really nicely done, and as I say, it almost gives you the impression of like the slight dryness that you get out of this beer, I think, is the thing that's setting it apart for me from the other ones that we've had so far, because it is just like a very fresh bread crust actually, and that's what I like about this one. It's always cool to try lots of different examples of a style from different breweries and pick up these nuances, but this is, as I said, a very nicely done Vienna lager for me. But on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there, and you're always going to get that, but as you move further forward, it's got a little bit of smoothness, a little bit of a herbal quality there, and as you push further forward towards the front corners of the palate, you get a nice floral aromatic quality out of this one. It's not too bright, it's not too spicy, but yeah, in terms of, if I'm comparing it to noble hops, I might suspect that this one is German. It is a little bit brighter than the Slovenian ones, I would say, so I do wonder if this if it's a German hop that's in this one. But round the front curve of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of a lighter sort of grassy element there, and around that front curve of the palate there is just a tiny little bit of zestiness to this beer too, and I really like that about this one for sure. But yeah, the green component in this one I think is really nice, and it helps give the beer a little bit of that kind of lager crispness, if you like. But yeah, let's focus on the front third of your palate then, and the fruity part of the beer. So border region again, between front third and middle third of your palate, you've got a little bit of a bready build-up in there. The bready build-up on these border regions is actually quite sweet in this one. You get a few of the kind of biscuity, grainy sweet elements kind of accumulating there, I think. Then the base of that front third of your palate, again, it's the kind of slightly sweeter brown bready character, I think, that's forming the base of that. On top of that though, you've got that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer as well, and I like that about this one. And the fruits are kind of typical of what you would expect as well. So on top of the back half of that back third of your palate, then you're starting to get all these kind of sultana type flavours in there. Like I said, those dried white, green, grapey elements there, that's what really sits there. As I said, you get a little hint of a slightly figgy note there as you move further forward, and then the front half of that front third of your palate, it's all about the kind of more oily, kind of peary elements there, and as you reach the very kind of front tip of the tongue, you almost get like a very slightly spicy apple or something out of it, and that's when the pear starts to mix with the kind of grassy esters that you have right on the tip of the tongue there. But the fruity character for me It's very typical of the style, as I say. Bit of sultana, little bit of a kind of red fruity figgy kind of thing, just a hint of that underneath, then a kind of oily pear and slightly spicy apple note as you move further forward. So yeah, it's got everything you'd kind of expect actually from the style. So big thumbs up to Leopoldauer for this one. I've really enjoyed this, and you know, if I was going to be a dick about it, I'd say, you know, this needs to be sold in half litres. But obviously, since they're a microbrewery, you have to understand why these why that's in 330s. But you could easily go through a 500 ml of these things. I'll need to have a little look in Vienna and see what the I'd love to go to one of the craft beer bars there and see all of these Vienna lagers and get them in a half litre stein. That would be a very dangerous night, I'm sure. But yeah, it's a lovely beer this, so thumbs up to them. Let's round off the review then with the mouthfeel. So yeah, mouthfeel wise, mid-bodied, carbonation is it's kind of a mix on this one. It's got a wee bit of crispness to it, but at the same time it's quite smooth. And overall I'd say that the beer, it comes across as quite clean in some ways, but it's got a nice little bit of smoothness to it. So there's a wee bit of crispness and a bit of smoothness to this one, and a little bit of slickness as well, which you do want from the Vienna lager because of that, you know, brown shoot, that caramelly, honey, biscuity symbiosis kind of thing that's going on in the middle of the palate there. So you do get a little bit of slickness out of this beer, which is nice. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think this is, you know, about 20 IBUs, which I think is fairly standard for the Vienna lager. So I think we're talking about 20 IBUs with this one. So not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. Lovely smoothness to the malt base, as I said. It's got a little bit of a kind of grainy, dry sort of thing underneath. Then there's a wee bit of a more kind of caramelly, biscuity sort of thing as well. So yeah, I really like that about this beer. And then the fruity side of it is really nice and kind of oily as well, actually. So I do like how it goes together. But yeah, it's really nicely done. As I say, this beer is probably the most stereotypical of the, well, at least, you know, for me, I say this in the wrong way. This beer really meets a lot of the stereotypes that I had about the Vienna lagers before I started trying the ones, and to be fair, my stereotype has proved not to be all that wrong. There's just little different subtleties and things like that, and I think the one that sets this one apart from the other ones that we've had before is just the slightly more prominent bread crusty note to it, and you're going to get this from brewery to brewery. So that's the really cool thing about these beers, is seeing how brewers interpret the style and put all these different little things in it. But this is a very, very nice example of the Vienna lager once again, and it gets a thumbs up from me. I think it's really nice, a nice drinkable, slick, and a nice drinkable, just enjoyable Vienna lager, this one for me. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. So yeah, this was the Vienna lager coming in at 5.4% ABV from Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk, based in Leopoldau in the north of Vienna. Really enjoyed this one once again, and I'm enjoying working my way through these Vienna lagers. Like I say, I think we've got 4 or 5 of them left, and then 1 or 2 other styles to look at as well from that first Hans box, and I'm sure we'll have more to look at from Austria at some point in the future. But yeah, been cool to review this one, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on it. So yeah, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk as well, and do give me some other Austrian brewery recommendations as well, because I know there'll be various things in different cities, of course, as well. I do need to get down to Austria and explore it once again. I was there when I was very young and don't remember it so much, but I know it's a beautiful, beautiful country. So yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Leopoldauer Brauhandwerk as well, and this is a lovely, lovely Vienna lager. So until the next time, Slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skull, cheers, and see you in the next review.